Your prospects are comfortable with pain. They've been living with this problem for weeks and months, and they've accepted that that's just how things are. They've normalized it and they're basically comfortable in it. And as long as they stay comfortable, they'll never actually feel that urgency to make a change on a sales call. So over the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can get your prospects to actually feel that urgency, not through like fake pressure tactics or anything like that, but by showing them what it actually costs them in future if they stay stuck. Because the truth is, people don't just buy solutions, they buy relief from pain they can no longer tolerate. And there's only one type of pain that people run even further away from than current pain. It's the avoidance of future pain. So let's break it down. Most salespeople think urgency is about pressure. Saying like, the offer expires tonight, or we've only got 3 spaces left. That's amateur. And if you've got any sort of high level prospect, they'll see right through it. Real urgency, it's not about deadlines, it's about consequences. See, people have usually been living with whatever problem they're asking you to help them solve. They've usually been living with it for a while and they've got used to it, they've adjusted. Let's say someone's sales team isn't growing. They might be blaming marketing, or they might be saying it's just the particular season of the market. Or if you're speaking to an entrepreneur that's currently working 60 hours a week and he's got no time, maybe he's telling himself that that's what it requires to actually succeed. It reminds me of that story that we get told in school. Whether it's true or not, I'm not sure, but when they say you put a frog in cold water and then put it on the stove and get it to boiling point, the frog will never get out because it's constantly adapting to the heat. But if you throw a frog into boiling water, it'll jump out straight away. And that's us as humans. We're very adaptable and we adapt to situations and we just kind of sit with it and never really make a change because we just get comfortable. So your job isn't to create new problems and fake deadlines saying you need to get in this right now and create even more stress. It's to help them to feel the weight of the problems that they already are facing. So I'll show you exactly how to do that by building some real emotional consequence questions. So here's what consequence questions actually do. Firstly, they force the prospect to see beyond today. As humans, we are creatures of instant gratification. We tend to just focus on what's in front of us. Most people just live in the immediate. So this forces them to take a look at the impact months from now or years from now. Second, a good consequence question is going to connect whatever surface level problem they're facing right now. So imagine there's a business that hasn't got enough leads, right? It's not got that much weight. But if you start looking at the consequence of what happens if they continue to not have enough leads, then we start to look at the consequences to his business, which ultimately will affect him personally and then could eventually affect his family. And all of a sudden, a surface level problem is going to carry way more weight. And a big one here, it's going to take the prospect away from just focusing on the current situation and current problems that they're facing and force them to look at future problems and future potential issues that they're going to face. And there's one thing that we all know drives us so much more than bad current situations. It's the avoidance of future pain. We all know when we worry about something that's way off in the future, it's always 10 times worse in our mind. And through sales calls, we sort of want to hold up that mirror and paint that picture for the prospect as to what happens if they don't take action. And that's going to carry a lot more impact. Let me give you a really simple example of how this would work. Let's say I'm speaking to a business owner. I'll obviously be asking him about numbers, goals, where he wants to go, where he's not right now, the basic stuff, okay? But that's not really going to move the needle. It's super logical and it's not really going to create that forward action. But imagine asking something like this after you've gone through this process. If you keep struggling to generate leads, what sort of impact does that have on the sales team? And that impact on the sales team, what does that look like for the business as a whole in 6 months' time? You see, I'm not just asking about the sales numbers here. I'm looking at the human cost of what happens if these numbers stay the same. So I want to break down for you now some real world examples of consequence frameworks that you can use on your next sales call. These are some of the frameworks that I've been using for such a long time now and they've served me so well. Come on. Okay, so to begin, we've got future impact questions. These basically show people where they're heading if nothing changes. So these questions might sound like, if this continues for another year, where does that leave your business? And what happens to your team at that point? Or if you're still dealing with this problem in 12 months, how does that affect your growth? The second is opportunity cost questions. These allow prospects to see basically what they're missing out on while they stay stuck. So these might sound like, whilst you've been dealing with this issue, what opportunities have you not been able to pursue? Or how much growth are you leaving on the table whilst you haven't been able to fix this? Or what do you feel like you could build if you didn't have to deal with this anymore? And the third is identity challenge questions. These are the most powerful, and these challenge people to how they basically see themselves. We might want to say something like, when we look at this version of you, the version of you that has got his time back, the version of you that has got a successful business, what does he do right now? Would he let this continue? Or if you were advising someone that was in your exact situation right now, what would you tell them? Now, here's the critical part when it comes down to delivering consequence questions. It comes down to your tonality. If it sounds like you're attacking them, they're going to get really defensive. If you sound too curious, you're going to get surface level responses. But if you sound concerned and genuinely concerned about the future, that's when they'll open up. So I want to show you one last thing. When you've asked these consequence questions over here, I want you to pay very close attention to how they respond. Because what some people may do is minimize the problem, okay? And they might say, oh, it's not all that bad, we're doing fine. If people try to minimize the issue like that, then you need to follow up with a question and be like, is fine really what you want? And then ask something like, why not? We're asking additional questions on top of the consequence because the surface level response that we've got isn't really going to move the needle. The second is, if they get emotional, we need to validate them. So if they start speaking about stress and how that's been affecting them, we need to validate it, but also lean in and say something like, how long have you been feeling this way for? That sounds really frustrating. How long have you been carrying that weight for? This is going to enable us to get an even further layer on top of that emotion and create real impact. The final is if someone is impartial, okay? So if they say something like, well, I'd just be in the same situation as I am right now. You basically need to lean in and challenge them, because what that's displaying is that they don't have real urgency. If they're just saying, yeah, I'd just be the same as I am now. It's like, okay, why not? Why not stay as you are right now for another 5-10 years? Some people do. Why not you? The key here is to try and stay in that emotional pocket. We need to get that emotional response from them. Don't let them intellectualize it, because ultimately logic is great for making people think, but it's that emotion that's going to get someone to act. So to round things off, here's a bit of an advanced technique that I like to call the identity bridge. So once a prospect has actually felt the cost of staying stuck, you're going to push them into an identity of someone that takes action. You might want to say something like this. This is why I like working with entrepreneurs like you, John, because you see a problem and you know what's holding you back and you know you just need to take action and fix it. You're not one of the sort of people who just is all talk and just coast along. I'm sure you know people like that, right? And then wait for a response and say, so you can see where this is headed. And we've laid out a plan of how we can fix it. The version of you that is able to, and then repeat back XYZ goal. What do they do here? What I'm trying to do here is frame them as a decision maker and not someone who just procrastinates. I'm basically just trying to appeal to how they want to see themselves. And people are much more likely to act when their identity is on the line. Look, consequence questions are not about just scaring people into buying. It's about holding up that mirror and showing people what's actually on the line. You're showing them the real cost of staying where they are. I've done hundreds of millions in sales right now, and I've observed that people know they have issues, they know they need to make a change, but sometimes they don't realise how much staying stuck is actually costing them. So it's our job as closers to show them that cost and for them to actually feel it. This isn't just to create fear in the prospect, it's to actually give them clarity and a path forward. And when they have that clarity, the clarity of the thing that's holding them back, and a route out of it, basically to run away from that reality, that's ultimately when they'll find that courage to act. If you want to master high-ticket remote sales and you want my help doing it, drop me a DM on Instagram or just book a call with me below, and I'd love to explore it with you further. Ciao for now.